My name is Fiona MacLeod. I was born and raised in Invermoriston, a quiet village on the shores of the mysterious and deep Loch Ness. My father, Ewan, is a fisherman. My mother, Isla, ran the village until she fell ill a few years ago. I have always lived among fog, ancient stories and curious tourists. And until recently, I thought it was all just legend. But now, nothing in my life is what it used to be. Ever since that morning on the lake, sleep had become a rare luxury. The nights in Invermoriston began to feel heavy in a different way. Time seemed to move slowly, as if the air itself had thickened. My dreams became visions, disjointed fragments of moss-covered stone, voices in ancient Gaelic, symbols drawn in blood on water-blackened wood. On my third sleepless night, I decided to seek answers. And there was only one person in the whole area who could help me: Hamish Sinclair, the old librarian of Dromedary. Hamish was said to be older than he looked to be in his 80s by then. He lived alone with his books in a stone cottage next to the old parish archive. He was known for telling tourists strange stories, the kind that would make even local guides roll their eyes. I knocked on the door at noon. It opened before I could knock a second time. "Fiona MacLeod," he said, without even asking me who it was. His blue, almost white eyes gleamed with something between recognition and alarm. "I knew you'd come." I shivered from head to toe. Hamish led me inside. The house was a maze of books, old maps, dusty documents, and objects that looked like they'd come from a Druidic museum. In the center of the main room was an oak table with hand-carved markings, spirals, eyes, strange symbols that burned when I stared at them too long. "You've seen the beast," he said bluntly. "It's not a beast," I answered without thinking. "It's something else." He murmured. "It's not what they say. Nessie, as they call her. She's older than any legend. And you've seen her. Which means now, you're marked." I laughed, but it was an empty laugh. "Marked? Why?" "Just by seeing a creature." Hamish stared at me for a long moment. Then he took a black leather book from a high shelf. He placed it in front of me. "Because whoever sees what sleeps in the lake, awakens other things with it. Things that do not belong to this world." The book had no title. The pages were written in ancient Gaelic, with symbols that moved when I looked away. He turned to a specific page and pointed to an illustration, a circle of stones, the same one I had seen in my dream, with a black, serpentine figure emerging from the center. "This here," I whispered. "I saw it. In a dream. The day before yesterday." Hamish nodded slowly. "The lake is a seal, Fiona. It was sealed centuries ago. And some say it is weakening. Someone or something is trying to get out. The beast only protects the boundaries. It is a warning, not the enemy." My mind was spinning. Nothing made sense. But deep inside me, something resonated, as if a dormant part of my soul was awakening to an ancient calling. "What now?" I asked. "What do I do?" Hamish smiled, but it wasn't a gentle smile. "You need to find out why you were chosen, and protect those who haven't seen them yet. Because, girl," he said, leaning closer, his voice deep, "the things that come after won't be as merciful as what you saw at the lake." That night, on my way home, I noticed something even more frightening than the sight of the monster. At my bedroom window, the black raven was waiting for me. But this time, he wasn't alone. There were two pairs of eyes behind him. Eyes that glowed like fire. And that disappeared when I blinked. The days had grown short, and the nights, eternal. Ever since my visit to Hamish's house, something inside me had changed. It wasn't just fear anymore, it was a certainty, as if an invisible rope was pulling me toward the center of the lake. I had begun to hear voices, not with my ears, but with my bones. Sounds that spoke in a language I understood but had never learned. And then the memories came, but they weren't mine. They were memories of another woman, of a guardian, of one who had sealed away what had slept in the lake for centuries. And that woman, she had my face. When I told Hamish this, he didn't seem surprised. He said my family was part of an ancient clan, the Seolas, whose mission was to maintain the boundary between the world of the living and the ancients. Not monsters, not gods, but entities that existed before time. "You are not chosen, Fiona," he said. You are an heir. It was then that I understood the seal was breaking, and my blood was the key to restoring it or opening it once and for all. On the last night, I returned to the lake. Not because I wanted to, because I felt I had to. Something inside me guided me, as if I myself were made of mist and legend. The lake was calm. The raven followed me to the water's edge and then landed silently on a rock. I walked to where the water met the land. And then, without knowing how, I was in the middle of the lake, as if I had crossed the world in one step. The mist parted, and there he was. The monster, no longer a figure. He was vast, ancient, imposing. His body rippled like the water itself, and his eyes stared at me with infinite sadness. He didn't come closer. He didn't need to, because behind him, something was waking. The lake shuddered. A crack opened beneath the surface. Black light began to rise, swirling, screaming. I saw hands made of shadows, teeth without faces, too many eyes, things that do not belong in human language. And in that moment, I knew what I had to do. I approached the water and cut my palm with a stone. The blood fell into the lake and shone like fire on the mirror of the water. Words came to my mouth not learned, but remembered. Terx mo fuil, sien gale nan dorshades. I offer my blood. Restore what has been sealed. The lake roared. The sky darkened. The monster, the guardian, let out a deep sound, like thunder trapped in the throat of the world. And then, everything happened at once. A burst of white light shot out from the center of the lake. The waters rose like walls. The shadows screamed, retreating. The seal closed, with my blood as its bond. And when I woke up, I was lying on the shore, alone, except for the raven, who was still watching me. Since that day, the lake has been calm again. Hamish disappeared. His house burned down 2 nights later, and no one has found his body. Morag, my sister, says that my hands are cold as stone when I sleep now, and that sometimes I speak in languages no one knows. But the lake is calm. The seal, for now, holds. And the monster? He is still there, watching, waiting, as am I, because I am Fiona MacLeod, the last of the Ceolas. And what sleeps at the bottom will one day try to wake again. It was October 7th, a cold, damp morning. Mist clung to the shores of the loch like ghostly fingers. I had gone out early to gather herbs near the ruins of the old churchyard of St. Columba, where the saint is said to have driven away a water demon. I had always heard this story with disdain, as if it were part of the folklore we tell to scare the English. But that morning there was something different in the air. The silence was thicker than the fog. Not even the crows cawed. Not a leaf stirred. That was when I saw it. The water of the lake parted softly, as if something gigantic were just watching. A long neck emerged, black as wet coal, with scales that gleamed strangely in the gray light. The eyes, oh my, the eyes looked ancient, as if they had seen centuries pass. They were not those of an animal. They were those of something that thought, that watched, that waited. My body froze. I don't know how long I stood there, unblinking, unbreathing. And then, in a second, it sank again, as silently as it had come, leaving only calm waves and a whisper in the air, like a lament. I ran. I stumbled over rocks, tore my coat on branches. And when I got home, shivering, my father said I was as pale as someone who had seen death dancing on the top of Ben Nevis. But I knew what I saw, and it was not a vision. It was not a hallucination. Since that day, things have changed. The lights in the house flicker at night, even when the generator is off. My sister Morag's wristwatch turns backwards when she comes near me. A mirror in my mother's room has broken by itself 3 times. And the strangest thing, an old black raven has started landing on my bedroom window every day. It watches me. It doesn't sing. It doesn't fly away until I go to sleep. The village has also started whispering. They say Fiona MacLeod has opened something. That seeing the monster is like breaking the seal on an ancient curse. My best friend, Callum, has moved away. He says he has dreams where he sees me sinking into the lake, dragged by invisible tentacles. But I can't run away from it. Not anymore. Because I know what I saw wasn't an accident. It was a calling. And the lake monster, it still watches me. This was another story. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like so the channel can grow here on YouTube. Share it with your friends who like this type of story. Subscribe to the channel. Bye. Until next time.